talking about the Packers offense against the Saints defense. Green Bay's offense has been fantastic if you look at the underlying metrics so far this year. They're second in the NFL in EPA per dropback over 2 games, behind only the Dolphins. On the other side, the Saints are third in EPA per play on defense. They are fourth in success rate. And oh my God, are they playing at a high level on that side of the ball right now? I wasn't sure. You got a couple guys that are long in the tooth. There were a lot of moving pieces up front where they had to switch out some talented guys for more bargain basement free agent signings. I wasn't sure what it would ultimately look like. The answer is one of the best defenses in football so far. They are playing at an extremely high level.
I legit was scared for Bryce Young watching that game. He took some hits. We'll talk about him later. But the front, I think, was such a concern for me, was that they lost so much talent, and which is a good thing because it's like you found that talent to begin with. But all right, how does this all get together? And then you got guys like Carl Granderson like stepping up, and then like
11 pressures in 2 games for Carl Granderson. He's making $4 million this year,
playing amazing right now. And then like on the back end, okay, all right. Matthews getting a little long in the tooth. All right, who else can step up? And then they just draft Alontae Taylor, and he looks phenomenal in the slot. And then on top of it, you got a top 3 linebacker pairing. I think any way you shake it, like Demario Davis and Pete Werner, who are just playing fantastic right now, and they're playing confident. These guys communicate very well. They make it hard on offenses, and I'll talk about an example in a second. But this team has got some good talent. They're doing some really just nice sound structure on defense, and they got vets, and a nice fun mix of vets, unheralded guys, and young guys. And you can see all these guys communicating very well. It's a very fun defense to watch right now, and a very good defense to watch right now.
Watching it all together is really something. Every single position group has something about them that's standing out right now. The speed with which the DBs are playing with is just crazy. I mean, Adebo, he's playing really, really well. Marcus Lattimore is on an insane level at this point. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the week, but they're playing a lot of man. So they're playing about 30% man coverage on early downs, which is the 3rd highest rate in the league. And they've actually started playing less quarters. And to me, that's just a declaration of we're just better than you. And we just know it, especially against the Panthers. That's very true. And so the Panthers, a couple different times in that game, are trying to do what you should do against man coverage. Pick plays, rub routes, trying to do something to create separation. And watching the DBs wiggle around the rubs and continue moving at full speed, it was crazy. Like I can't remember seeing a defense defend those sorts of concepts in man coverage that easily. Part of that is the lack of juice the Panthers have, but it was still something to note. So that's the DB room. The linebackers, what's so cool is the combination of roles that they're playing. So you have Demario Davis playing as well in coverage as any linebacker in the league right now in his mid-30s. His sense of where he's supposed to be in some of those zone coverages is wild. And then the ways they're using Pete Werner, we'll talk about it in a second. A guy with his frame shouldn't be the run defender he is in certain situations. How he's just knifing into the backfield. He's making explosive plays, but he's also holding up as an edge player. The complementary skill sets at virtually every single level of the defense and just the hive mind that they're currently playing with. It is the mark of a well-constructed, very well-coached unit. And I am really enjoying watching it right now.
Yeah. We'll talk, the Werner thing is the Saints are a 4 down front, they're not usually in this, but a 4-3 front. And this thing that they're doing when they're in nickel is staying that 4-2 nickel personnel, 4-2-5, bumping the 4 down lineman over to create an odd front, a 3-4 front, in particular, a bear front, which is where the center and both guards are covered. You have a head up center or a head up defensive tackle over the center. And Pete Werner moves on over to the outside linebacker spot. Think of him as like James Harrison. You know, he's always away from the tight end. Like, I mean, seriously, that's what they have him at. It's like, he rushes the passer a little bit. He's actually pretty good. He's good at everything. He's such a good athlete. He's a good tackler too. And like, I love him. I love their linebackers. They're fun. But why that's such a pain is because certain runs are good against certain fronts. And now if you're in the same exact personnel and you don't come out and all of a sudden you're all of a sudden running a odd 3 down, not odd looking, but odd 3 down, 3-4 front. Well, this zone play that I had isn't great against this. Oh, okay. So we have to make sure we have a kill or an alert, a check in the huddle in case they run that front. And okay, well, that run's not great against this. So it makes it a lot of work on the offensive play coaches the whole week, and on the quarterback and the whole offense to learn that throughout the week, the different looks that they have to block against. So they have good personnel, and then they just do those types of things that just makes it just such a pain in the ass for offenses. It's going to be interesting against Matt LaFleur, and we'll get to that side of it. But that is why this team just kicks so much ass, and why it's so hard to run against them and have consistent drives against them.
The defense looks good, but the Packers are a real challenge right now in the way that this offense is constructed. What about this Green Bay offense stood out to you in the sense of how they're putting stress on defenses?
I love the play action game and what they're doing, the different types of play action, and Jordan Love's love for ripping those throws and having no qualms with throwing it over the middle. It's awesome. I love the varied run game. They package plays. So I actually think that it's funny because the Packers are going to have some carryover from the Falcons last week, because who the Falcons defensive coaches are. So they could probably just go, oh, okay, we did this. It's kind of a way Pepsi Zero version of the Saints offense, but it's similar. But I think this is just like we talked about the Lions. This is a jab, haymaker kind of game. They're going to be hard to run against, but Matt LaFleur is very good at packaging plays and being very game plan-y. Their run game can be varied enough where they can get to different runs. So I do think that they will be a team that does have some answers. It's just a lot of work. And I think up front, it's going to be a hoss fight. This is I know I said that about the last game, but this one really, that Packers O-line versus this Saints D-line, there's going to be some bodies going everywhere. And I know I've just been talking for 5 minutes on this, and I think there's some designer plays that are going to be cool. That's what Matt LaFleur is very good at. This Saints defense can be aggressive. It's got Honey Badger in it. So, they're going to bite on some stuff. So maybe they look for some plays to take advantage of that as well.
I'm curious what the motion does, because the Panthers are a pretty static offense. I mean, they weren't using a ton of motion. I don't know if they're going to, which is kind of strange because they have a talent deficiency at receiver. You think that they'd want some moving parts. The Packers are using a ton of motion this year. So Rodgers last season had 46 dropbacks where the Packers used jet motion, about 2.9 times a game. Love is already 11 through 2 games this year. So 5.5 times a game they're throwing while using jet motion. And why that's interesting is that the Saints are so good playing match coverage. Like, their zone coverage is turned into man immediately. That's how aggressive that they play it, and that's how smart those guys are. So if you're playing with those number counts right before the snap consistently, are you able to attack those match coverages in a way that a static offense or a more static offense might not be able to? And that's what happened last week when we watched them play against the Panthers. Yeah. So that to me is worth watching. Yeah. And the other part about watching Green Bay that I've just really enjoyed, they've done such a great job of picking their spots when they've taken shots in the play action game.
Yes.
So they have these heavy personnel groupings that they use where it's 12 or 21. You can't really discern it because DeGuara is kind of a fullback and he's kind of a tight end in some looks.
It's pro.
Yeah, yes. So it doesn't really matter. But the point is they're getting in heavier personnel groupings. And the benefit of it is it goes beyond keeping a team in base defense and throwing against them. They've done such a good job of wadding up the pocket, but only for a second. So they'll have a tight end ship, or they'll have a tight end come across the formation and give a little shoulder nudge to the end and then spill out into the flat. So you're slowing down the pass rush, but still getting 3 or 4 guys out into the route. Honestly, what it reminds me of is the play action game that the Lions had last year, where you're not tightening it up so much that you're taking away options from your quarterback, but you are putting enough bodies there where you're not worried about the pass rush whatsoever. And you saw that a couple times against Atlanta. With 7 pass blockers this season, it's not a huge sample size, but the Packers are 5 of 7 for 137 yards in 2 games. So it's 19.6 yards per attempt. And it's some of the biggest gains that they've had so far over those 2 games.
And I think they drew a huge PI on your boy Trey Flowers on one too. So it's like that's like a, doesn't count in the box score, but that's another like
my boy Trey Flowers. I've been crushing.
Trey Flowers.
I'm trying to be mean. It's just
David Montgomery, Samaje Perine, and Trey Flowers. Those are your 3 guys this year.
David Montgomery is one of those where I just want so much out of the Lions that I just the juice is like, I'm fine.
Isn't enough?
He's playing fine.
But this is getting into like even game planning, and what this is how teams operate too, is you look for any tells or any tendencies. I always talk tendency breakers, and The Saints, when they are in that head up look, that odd 3-4 type look, they run single high coverage every single time. And that's me just glancing at this game, watching all 22. I'm not Matt LaFleur. I'm not the Packers staff that like do this. And so, okay, I can guarantee that's cover 3 or man coverage every single time. If I'm the quarterback, I look at the head up nose. Okay, I know it's that. So you can now package plays that go, well, let's take advantage of that. But also on top of that, there's a tell with where Honey Badger is, where Tyrann Mathieu is. If he is kicked towards the tight end side or he's in the post, it's man coverage. If he is away from the tight end, it's zone. And I figured out watching one game. Yes, there might be some breakers for this, but yeah, that's what I just wanted to kind of show an example of like, that's how game planning goes. And a lot of game planning can be very like, well, we got to use these 2 plays to kind of throw away. We might get 6 yards on it. We're setting up this play. We're setting up this situation. We're setting up this look. We're going to run that play and we have a kill. Okay, we ran it. They didn't show the look. We ran it. They didn't show the look. Okay, now they're in the look. Kill, alert, or can. Okay, touchdown. And that's kind of how game planning goes. And sometimes it can be frustrating, but that's the type of game that the Saints make you do. They make you wait to take those chances. That's why it's going to be really interesting. And I think Jordan Love's going to have some opportunities to hit some play action in breakers.
One of the other things I noticed, this is the last thing I'll say about Packers offense. It's so obvious how much more athleticism and explosiveness they have this year. And that's without Christian Watson even playing.
Yeah.
There were a couple plays in this game. They had a jet sweep touchdown to Jayden Reed, which is just okay. Like they just didn't have Jayden Reed over the last couple of years. Like they didn't have that guy with that skill set.
Amari Rodgers.
Yes. And so having that role be filled with someone that can impact the game the way that Jayden Reed has already been able to, I think is notable. There was a play in the Falcons game where they used Luke Musgrave in the slot as the clear out guy. And then they hit an in-breaker behind it. The fact that your tight end has enough juice to play that role in any given concept is a big departure from what we've seen over the Packers over the last couple of years. And there's been some discourse around the Packers offense over the first 2 weeks where it's like, oh, this now they can really be what they want to be. And I think it's important to remember that Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVP awards over the last couple of years with his Packers offense, but so much of that was his mind meld and the relationship and connection he had with Davante Adams. That was the basis of who the Packers were in the passing game. So, but even if the results were great, structurally, this looks so much different that I find it very intriguing. Like living in this world and what it's ultimately going to look like, especially when Watson gets back and it doesn't sound like he's going to play this week. It's just an offense that I'm consistently going to find myself going back to watch because of all the little Easter eggs that are going to be in there.
Right. It's someone actually playing the video game instead of using a cheat code.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a very good comparison. Yeah.
That's how I'll leave it at.
All right. Couple of things injury wise to note in this game. Marcus May suspended for 3 games for violating the league substance abuse policy. He's been playing well. And so that is definitely something to take note of on the back end for the Saints. Elton Jenkins and David Bakhtiari not practicing. I know we touched on the Bakhtiari stuff on Sunday night when it seemed like the turf might have been the reason that he didn't end up playing. He came out this week and clarified that that wasn't the reason. It was that his knee flared up last week. That to me is more concerning. Yeah. The fact that now we're 2 years into this, and even without some sort of huge setback, his knee just, the swelling pops up and he's going to miss a game after playing in week 1. That is troubling. Even with the depth on the offensive line that they have, this group at its best can be one of the best offensive lines in football. Yep. And if he's going to be in and out of the lineup and you're missing Jenkins for any amount of time, it's just a bummer to be robbed of that version of this Packers team because they were clicking in week 1 playing together.
Yeah. And it's not just, and again, speaking of another video game analogy, it's not just like Madden where it's like, okay, we'll just bump this guy over. He's an 82 overall. We're fine. It's the whole week you got a game plan for this stuff. And when someone backs out the day before the game or late, then it's like, well, we had the Packers had a whole package using a 6 offensive linemen, and they had to like flop guys around just to get to those looks. So now 3 guys are moving spots on a one play, and now they have to go back to the next play. So there's a trickle down effect that even if these guys are talented or decent or solid depth pieces, this is the human element of this. That's a lot to ask guys switching sides, left tackle to right tackle, because your star left tackle that you paid a bunch of money has only played 600 snaps in 30 something months, so that's tough. And it honestly, like you said, if it's a turf thing, that was already a weird thing. I understand his argument for it, but I'm just saying that's already a unique thing to deal with, because if you even looked at their schedule, it was like 4 of the last 7 games would have been on turf. It's like, so you're going to miss half and the tail end of the season, it's like, oh, that's just already. But if you're just missing time like this, it's very just a situation that's just kind of gotten out of hand. I really feel that way, where it's gone on way too long, where it's just like, all right, come on, something's got to happen.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating when you're Matt LaFleur, when you're the guys in that building. And I understand if he's not ready to play, he's not ready to play.
Right.
But it's just really tough this deep into it, especially when it seemed like he was kind of in the clear heading into the season. And clearly that is not the case.